Good day, everyone. Richard Cowperthwait for Northwest Access TV. Thanks for joining us, and we're happy to have alongside today St. Albans Mayor Tim Smith. Morning, Mr. Mayor.
Hello, Richard. How are you?
Just fine, thank you. We're taping this show on Wednesday, July 27th. God, it might be worth mentioning pretty big news north of the border today with the Pope blowing into the Quebec City area. Huge news for obviously Canadian media and getting a lot of attention here too.
Yeah, I got to believe the crowds will be quite large,
Boy, I guess
especially in Quebec City.
Yeah, I guess he's doing a service in a church outside Quebec City, but I heard they have big screens on the Plains of Abraham, which I've been to before, and can accommodate 150,000 people or something if they're just watching on the screen. But it should be quite the day up there.
Yeah, it's I'm not sure when the last time he was in North America.
Boy, I can't tell you that. I think it's probably been a while.
So I think it'll be interesting to see what he talks about, right? I mean, what his sermon will be.
Yeah.
I know he's been lately. He's had a lot of discussions about the past history of the Catholic religion and whatnot, so I'll be curious to see where he goes.
Yeah, interesting. So we have our Vermont primary election not too far away. In fact, again, we're taping this show Wednesday, July 27th, so we're less than 2 weeks away. Did you catch the interesting poll that just came out?
Yeah,
did you catch that?
I got to question the poll on that.
I suspect something tells me you weren't real thrilled to see some of the results.
Yeah, no, I mean, I saw the one for Congress between Gray and Becca
Ballin getting the most attention,
and that doesn't.
You're not buying that.
Yeah, I'm not buying that one, but the number was only 763 people or whatever it was, but. Yeah. I'm not sure if they just polled in the Burlington area or what the situation was.
For the record, anybody who didn't see that had Becca Ballin literally 3-1 ahead of Molly Gray, 63-21. But I'm always a little skeptical of polls. But there was a very early poll. I think it was also a UNH poll, very early, that had Ballin a little bit ahead of Molly Gray.
Right.
I'm getting Becca Ballin stuff in the mail just about every day. She certainly seems to have had some more money to spend.
Yeah, definitely the LBGQ PAC, I guess it was.
Yeah.
I was sort of thinking this morning as I was preparing to come out here was that if Molly Gray wins, will anyone take any type of ownership for that poll, in terms of how far off they were? But time will tell. We had a discussion at our board meeting for Franklin County Industrial Development about, I don't think, and you might correct me, but I don't think there's a primary at all for any of our local representatives.
In fact, just one, and I tried to get for the record the two folks on air here. I like to interview candidates in a contested primary. I think the only one is the Enosburg Montgomery House seat with my old friend Penny DeMar running against Zach Messier, who I called 3 times, who couldn't even bother to call me back, and Penny decided to just wait till the general election. But that's the only local primary contest, I think.
But then, I was thinking, so you had Susie Hull-Casavant, but she's an independent.
She's running as an independent.
And then you had
and
Cindy
the
Weed.
messenger incorrectly. They had a long story on Susie and Cindy Weed, former 2-term rep, and had them both running as independents. I'm reading this story and saying, no, that's not right. Yeah. And I got to look at the ballot in Enosburg, and indeed, Cindy Weed, as I suspected, is running as a Democrat. So for anybody who saw that story, it was inaccurate in terms of Cindy running as an independent. She's running as a Democrat. So that'll be an interesting race. It'll be a 3-way race. I think there's zero doubt that Penny DeMar, who's very well known in that area, will be the Republican nominee against independent Susie Hull-Casavant and Democrat, maybe kind of parenthesis progressive, Cindy Weed. That'll be an interesting race.
In the ballot, did Cindy have a D and a P by her name?
She didn't. I checked the P ballot, just running as a Democrat, with Felicia Loeffler having served 2 terms. I think she even moved out of state, but in any case didn't run for a 3rd term. So that'll be interesting.
Yeah, I saw an article. So 41 representatives are not returning and 11 senators.
And about a third of the Senate.
Yeah.
Not to mention the statewide offices with only 2, with Governor Phil Scott. I almost said Phil Hoff. Governor Phil Scott and Auditor our friend Mr. Hoffer, the only 2 statewide incumbents trying to get their old jobs back. So boy, a lot of changes.
It wouldn't hurt my feelings if Mr. Hoffer chose to step down. But
I suspect not. So anyway, just one local contest, but in November we'll have plenty to talk about for sure.
yeah, for November's going to be interesting for sure.
Yeah.
Not only locally, statewide, and,
Yeah.
and even nationally, it's going to be interesting.
Boy,
for
I got to
sure.
think Republicans are, I think, just licking their chops about the November midterms.
I got to think so, but
I think the Roe v. Wade decision helps Democrats to some extent,
sure.
but boy, I just don't think it stands up to name the other issues: inflation, the border, the economy, and stuff. But I'm seeing Republicans could pick up 40, 50 House seats.
Yeah,
The
for
Senate,
sure.
of course, is way different story, but easy to think the Republicans still may grab a slight edge in the Senate. But
I think there's a long list of topics that the Republicans could attack the Democrats on
Yeah.
for sure. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out.
yeah, for sure. Not to mention 2024 not being so far away.
Yeah.
I think the big interest for me there, Ron DeSantis, the Florida governor, he seems to be the hot guy in the GOP. And it's interesting, I read a long story on him in the New Yorker. One, maybe it was a supporter or a pundit describing DeSantis as Trump with a brain, was one comment. But DeSantis, pretty popular guy, and he's certainly been asked probably a bunch of times, would you challenge Trump in 2024 if he runs again, which he sounds like he's going to do.
Yeah,
And he's been very careful not to answer that. That'll be interesting to me if Trump does run, if DeSantis challenges him.
I think it'd be disappointing if Trump runs. I
See,
mean,
it
I
sounds
don't.
like there's a lot of baggage. I think I'm even seeing about half of the Republicans now don't want him to run again.
Yeah.
It seems like there's a lot of baggage there. I think DeSantis may be the guy.
Yeah.
And I saw a Democratic poll for the first time, I guess last night. Biden 1 point behind Mayor Pete, just with maybe 8 Democrats and AOC. They even threw in AOC with 5%, but. Anyway, we could talk about that forever, but yeah, some interesting elections coming up. Have we got a new city clerk at this point, Tim?
We should at
Wow.
12:05 today.
Oh, is that right?
We have a special meeting called for the council, and we'll be approving the selection.
Interesting. Was that again? You had a number of candidates, some decent candidates.
Yeah, we had decent candidates, and I think this one will be great. The individual will represent the city
So
well.
nobody, you can't give us that info.
No, probably shouldn't. No,
Okay.
because I hate to give you the information, then have the nomination or the
Gotcha.
selection denied by the council. I doubt that will. I know
Right.
that won't happen, but
Yeah.
still.
But kudos to the office. I've been down there a few times, but it sounds like they've done. Again, we talked
Yeah.
last show about just the tragic death of Curry Galloway, but it sounds like the office folks have done a good job following that.
Yeah,
before.
no doubt. They've been
Yeah.
shorthanded, and they've all pitched in. There's the zoning office and the clerk's office have interchanged. People. Kristen Smith has come down from upstairs to help out. So they've really pitched in. It's been a long road. I mean, Curry's been out since back Thanksgiving, I think.
Is that
so
right?
it's
So
been
not this year at all. Wow.
yeah. So I think and the staff in City Hall has really pitched in to make sure it works, and I think most people would not have noticed any hiccup in the customer service for
Yeah.
sure.
So this is a city council appointment of the new.
Exactly. This is part of the charter change that
Right.
we pursued.
Yeah.
For those who don't know, the city clerk, city treasurer was always elected.
And had to be a St. Albans city resident.
Had to be a city resident.
Yeah.
We eliminated the city requirement, and we left the appointment up to the city council, not the city manager. So he had that separation of duties, if you will. So,
But the city manager will effectively be the boss of said new
Right.
city clerk treasurer.
so once again, the former position, the clerk treasurer position,
Yeah.
was did not have to report to the city manager.
Right.
They ran that department as a separate cost center, if you will,
Yeah.
and they could set their hours, they could take whatever time off, all that.
Yeah.
I think the city pretty much set the pay scale, but the city the clerk treasurer was a more or less an independent operation.
Interesting. I'm running into a few folks who kind of like the old way of things, although I think what the city did made a ton of sense. Seems like that's been a trend also, to have appointed city clerk treasurers as opposed to elected. Seems like that's been a bit of a trend in Vermont.
I think the one I had heard was 25% of the communities have gone that way.
Is that right?
Of hiring in this same format. My concern when Curry and I we had that bond and that we were both elected together at the same time, and I expressed to Curry when she was running the office that I would be pushing for it to be an appointed position, not an elected position, because. And we lucked out with Curry. Curry was wonderful. Yeah. She had all the skill sets needed to run the office, but you could always have someone come off the street and run, and maybe run unopposed and get the position, and not have any, not have any skill sets to accounting and working with numbers and all that. And you don't even have the chance to check their background. So there could be, the individual could have had a history of embezzlement or whatever the case was. There's no checks and balances at all for, we were lucky. I mean, you go back to.
City did pretty well, sounds like.
Pat Bronson, when I was rec director, you had Pat Bronson, you had Diana Barabee, you had Sue Krupp, you had Curry. They were all wonderful. They all were great at their jobs. But there was always that possibility that that you might get someone who may not have been the most appropriate for the position.
No, for sure. A former town clerk in Bakersfield pops into my mind. But no, it sounds like what the city did made a lot of sense there. How long a contract are we talking for this new?
That's a good question. I think it's 3 years to begin with.
Yeah.
I'll have to double check that.
Interesting.
So.
And you, obviously, the city set the pay, the salary for that.
It was commensurate with experience.
Yeah.
So that was decided and is in the budget for this year.
Boy, so I guess we're midsummer plus at this point. August about to check in. City having a decent summer. The Car Classic went well. A lot of folks downtown that day.
I'd heard nothing but good things about the Car Classic in conjunction with the farmers market for sure. They had 107 cars scattered throughout on Main Street and throughout the park. Kathy Manahan and her team, they show up every year, and people just love the atmosphere, and it just works out to be great for the community. Concerts in the park, another one tonight, Wednesday nights, and those have been a big hit as well. But just in general, downtown is just busy. I mean, on a nice day like today, I think back to 10, 12 years ago when you'd be hard pressed to find people walking the main street, but now, and a lot of that has to do with the Passport Center. They're bringing in 35 or so people a day to get passports, so they're downtown, they're buying coffee, they're visiting the stores. So I just think the traffic downtown, foot traffic, is just substantial for the summer, and I think most of the merchants are very happy with what they've seen as well.
Not sure when the show is airing, but talking about car shows, just want to mention, in case it airs before this weekend, but another great car show coming up this Saturday in Swanton, their annual, always the last Saturday in July. It's a good show, totally fills up the Village Green. And just mentioning good stuff around here. And the last Sunday in July is also the Jig in the Valley in East Fairfield, if you're after a day long. Nice music, so a lot of good events around here.
Yeah, and to give a shout out to the town as well. I think they've done a great job in the Bay Park.
Yeah.
They have their Thursday night farmers market with the music. And
that was a real brainstorm to hook in music with that. I've been down there a couple of times. We're talking big crowds on Thursday. That was a great idea.
I've yet to be able to make it for whatever reason, and I need to get there. But I've heard nothing but good reports on the music and the vendors as well. They also just had a concert Saturday evening with two bands as well, and I think they sold those out.
I just missed that. Got back into town right as I was ending, so yeah, just missed that.
Yeah, so they've worked hard to bring people to the Bay, and the Bay is it's a great setting for all those activities.
Yeah. No, there's been a lot of good stuff going on this summer. So work ongoing at the old Fonda Solo site for the Railroad Dispatch Center.
The railroad. I spoke to Mike Connor, the contractor for the job, and the owner of the building, and they were getting ready to put the membrane roof on. They do have some delays on windows, supply chain issues, but they're moving ahead, and it looks good.
I asked you pretty much every show, USCIS, U.S. Customs and Immigration Services, any new news on that?
And I give you the same answer every show, Richard. I think I was looking at my calendar. I think June 1st they came and looked at the sites.
They did at least check it out.
Yeah, there was 3 or 4 sites they came and looked at with a team, and they and as far as I know, no one's heard from anyone. So that's another hurry up and wait scenario.
Interesting.
So,
talking about good stuff, I just showed you this off here, but I was at the airport, BTV, a couple days ago, and I'll pick up anything I see I'm prone to pick up. And this is a Vermont inspiration for your next adventure. I don't know if this is a new thing or not. Start planning today at vermontvacation.com, but of course look through this, and lo and behold, a nice story on St. Albans with a lot of info on St. Albans, 72 hours in St. Albans. So some nice thing for the city.
Yeah, for sure. I think more and more people are starting to find St. Albans, and half hour out of Burlington's not too far to go. And I don't know if I shared this story the last time I was here, but we were on vacation, and my wife had some friends that came up from DC and stayed at the house. And the intent was they were just going to stay a weekend. They showed up on Saturday morning, and we were going to leave on Monday. And they loved what they found, and they stayed 8 days.
Really, with you guys?
Well, no, we were gone. We were still gone, so they had the house to themselves. But they they chose to stay 8 days. They did hiking at Jay Peak. They went to the lake. They visited downtown. Went out to eat. They just couldn't say enough about St. Albans, and so it's always great to hear those stories and get exposure. And this piece here definitely helps for sure.
Yeah. Speaking of going out to eat, Old Foundry, we're getting closer to sometime in August, perhaps.
I think last week they were sheetrocking the kitchen area, and so it is. I keep hearing August. I don't know if that's changed at all, but I think they're going to be opening in August.
I've never stopped there, but I see a food truck pretty routinely in front of the railroad building.
Yeah, I don't know much about that. There's another food truck a different one that shows up at the band concerts. I don't know much about either one of them.
We've talked about trying to get bus service back to St. Albans. I did run into Mr. Jim Levy at People's Trust the other day and talked to him for a while, and he's still plugging away at that. I guess he said one issue that come up was Greyhound, apparently. The parent company was sold, or there was some change there, which I guess had kind of slowed things down. But knowing Jim, it sounds like he's still doggedly working.
Jim gets all the credit on that. He he initiated contact, built a relationship with the guy who decides on routes. He visited the community before COVID,
and COVID, of course, didn't help matters, obviously.
And I'm curious as to how Greyhound would handle the crossing of the border with the new AppCan, and whether Canada is going to follow through with that moving forward. I haven't heard anything recent, but it'd be interesting to see what that impact's going to be.
Yeah, for sure. So I think he was still confident it would happen at some point, but it was hard to nail down any time frame for that. I was going to mention the border. I've been across the border a few times recently, and boy, I don't do well with stuff like Arrive Canada. Fortunately, innkeeper Jennifer handles that very well, but I'm hearing rumbling. Somebody even told me they thought they had dropped that. I haven't seen that report. I know when we went through just about a week ago, the guy at the Phillipsburg Saint Armand thanked us. We had our Arrive Canada showed passports. And I think as we were leaving, I think he said, thanks for having the Arrive Canada. But I know there's a lot of pressure north of the border to get rid of that. I'd like to think that will go away sooner than later and make crossing the border just that much easier.
Yeah, I think it's a deterrent for
Sure.
some people who aren't comfortable
Yeah, like
using,
me. Sure.
both of us for that matter. Denise does all my,
Yeah.
when we were traveling, she handled that, but,
Huh.
yeah, we were at the border twice on our trip and, probably had to stay about 15 minutes just because they were typing all the,
Yeah.
we did the arrive can, but we, for whatever reason, had to type in all the birth certificate information.
Oh, really?
Not once, but twice, so
Really?
I'm not sure what that was about, but
Yeah, that'd be nice if that goes away at some point.
Yeah,
You're
for sure.
Noticing some more Quebec, obviously,
yeah.
borders opened up somewhat, so nice to see more Quebec cars around here.
Yeah,
So.
I was down in Colchester at Airport Park. Have you been to that park?
I don't think
Colchester
so.
Bike Pass goes right by. It's at the end
No,
of.
yeah.
It's at the end of. You go past. Where Rossie's is.
Yeah.
You continue down probably a couple miles, and it's
No,
just
it's been a while since I've been down.
It's just a beautiful part of Colchester,
Huh.
and I never realized that till I went for ball games. But I'd run into some Canadians there who were down, and they were excited to be back in the States and doing some biking on the. They went out to the causeway and utilizing the bike pass, and they said coming across the border for them was a piece of cake.
Yeah.
I mean.
Yeah,
so-
interviewing Swanton officials lately, they've been saying, clearly
Yeah.
it's a much more, obvious presence of more Quebec folks.
Yep.
An FCI DC issue, while I've got you, Beta Technologies, still working on seeing if they're interested. It sounds like they're interested, but in the old Energizer building?
Discussions are still going on. I think there's a tentative date of October potentially for them to sign a lease.
Really? Wow.
So it's still 2 months away, but all indications are they're still interested in the property, and
Yeah.
I know they've been in contact with the property owner. So the expectation is that they will, unless something drastic happens,
Wow.
we expect they will be signing a lease at some point.
So you're very optimistic about that?
Yeah.
That looks very solid?
Yeah, for sure.
And I
for
guess
sure.
they just signed a lease with, Burlington for, I hear like 75
75
years
years,
for
yeah.
some property near the airport.
Yep.
Well, that sounds like, you would know this way better than myself. That sounds like that could be the biggest economic news in Vermont since, IBM maybe, or am I missing, or certainly big news
I think
anyway?
I think it's a little premature to compare to
Yeah.
IBM. I think it's more of a dealer.com.
Okay, I don't mean to say numbers, but still big news.
Yeah, no, it's big news. Dealer.com
Yeah.
and
Huh.
Keurig or Greenmount Coffee. I think all of those.
What about Husky? Did Husky, do we kind of not get the numbers out of Husky? They were originally hoped.
Never got the numbers we had hoped for, but
Yeah.
still, I think they're at 400
Pretty
now.
good presence, so.
We take 400 jobs any
Really?
day, right?
Really?
But yeah, the anticipated number at Husky just never materialized. But the early numbers for Beta are 60 to 100 jobs.
For locally here.
Yeah, for the battery
Right, for
division. So
battery.
they're focused on the battery division
Wow.
for Energizer. So that's
Yeah.
where, that's the number I've been told. So it'll be, but yeah, still in the making. I think they're working through some things with the Burlington site for sure, and the new building there. So when they get that wrapped up, not the construction, but just their plans, I think they'll be more focused on the St. Albans site.
Yeah, and speaking of kind of economic news, just talking to Swanton Village Manager Reg Beliveau, Swanton Village President Neil Spear. They're pretty excited about the Franklin County State Airport situation, of course, extending water and sewer lines out there. I guess that work now targeted for next year, but that certainly sounds like that could be a big plus.
Yeah, no, that's
And I know you've certainly been much involved with that.
Kudos to Heidi Bridge Valenta up in
Highgate
Highgate Town.
Yeah.
And their chair, Sharon Busquet. Both of them have worked hard to find the funding to do that, to educate voters about what the future would hold if that were to happen. That's nothing that's going to, for the most part, I don't think we'll see any substantial impact in the next 3, 4, 5 years.
Right.
But that's a long-term investment that's going to be huge for not only Highgate and Swanton, but the entire county.
Yeah.
I mean, we are, we're entertaining a number of calls from businesses, real estate folks looking for land to construct, and we have the industrial park in St. Albans Town with the Highgate site. That will be huge. So St. Albans will, or not just St. Albans, but Franklin County will position itself to attract a lot of new business coming to the region. So we're excited about that. You know, speaking of Swanton and Highgate, I would also say that we've continued discussions with both communities about and others about getting a welcome center on the interstate.
Right.
Something between the border and Swanton, and try to catch them before they get to Swanton, catch the tourists.
Of course, there used to be one just when you cross
Yeah.
the border that they knocked down some years ago.
Yeah, that one, we probably didn't handle that real well.
Yeah.
I say we being locally, we should have pushed back on that a little more than we did, or have a plan in place to replace it.
Yeah.
And the state, I think you've heard me say my spiel before, Richard, that's the only major thoroughfare into the state of Vermont that doesn't have a
Without
welcome center. And
Which
that
was-
is the site that has access to the most people within an hour of travel.
Right.
So you can
So that
access,
doesn't make much sense.
doesn't make much sense. You can access
Right.
5 million people within an hour of that Highgate border crossing, and we don't have anything to welcome them.
Wow.
Yet you go to Waterford over by St. Johnsbury, which
Yeah.
people come in from New Hampshire, and
Yeah.
it's minimal, but they have a welcome center.
Sure. Obviously, coming up from Massachusetts, you get
Guilford
Yeah.
has one. You've
Yeah.
got the one in Fairhaven on Route 4. So we're optimistic we'll be moving that conversation forward.
Interesting. So you're talking to state officials about that?
We just sent a letter off to Secretary Joe Flynn at the Transportation Department and CC'd the governor, so he's well aware of, and he has been aware of it, so that
Boy,
discussion.
that'd be great if you could pull that off.
Yeah, it would be.
Boy, the labor shortage situation, still pretty much the same as we talk about potential new businesses and stuff. Boy, labor shortage issue is just
Yeah,
continues to be so
doesn't-
tough.
In some ways, people early on were looking for me for solutions, and I'm not.
Yeah.
I don't have the solution. And
Yeah.
as time has gone on, everyone realizes we're all in the same boat. And
Yeah.
I think we need to be creative. We need to work with the high schools to educate kids about opportunity. And I think we need to figure out how to pull people off the interstate from going south every day.
Right.
And I think those are the opportunities for us to
Yeah.
fill those voids.
Wow.
So.
The big apartment project proposed down on Lake Street, does that look pretty solid, that proposal?
Yeah, we
Talking about 70 or so units?
We approved water and sewer allocation
Really?
at our last meeting. I think
Down to about 1 minute.
yeah, probably shouldn't jump on this, but the hot topic was the Dollar General store. You know,
Oh, is that right?
a lot of people don't feel it's a proper location, but we approved the allocation. We had our hands tied on that.
And that location being?
Next door to Maple Fields up at exit 19.
Okay.
So.
Boy,
But-
those stores just keep
Oh, they
cropping
do.
up. Huh?
I think they said there's, I think Emerson said 800 new stores in
Really?
the U.S. this year.
Wow.
So,
About 30 seconds. Any quick comments on anything, Tim?
no, just enjoy the rest of the summer.
Yeah.
The band concerts, both in the Bay and Taylor Park, and get out and enjoy what we have left. Not to be a pessimist, but time is flying, and we're heading into August. So,
Yeah, take advantage of summer. Thanks to St. Albans Mayor Tim Smith, and thanks to producer Paul Snyder doing all the hard work. I'm Richard Cowperthwait. We'll see you next time on Northwest Access TV. See ya.